This is Adrian Lopez. I'm the CEO of Workforce Solutions Alamo. WSA covers a footprint of about 13 counties. Of course, Bexar County is our most urban county. And of course, we have been trying to, during this time period, along with our partners, all of the agencies that we work with, including the Texas Workforce Commission, have been trying to be responsible and responding as quickly as possible to the needs of our community given this current crisis. At this point, I'd like to thank Commissioner Demerson for his leadership in engaging with employers and businesses throughout the entire state, and our state officials for their work to assure that our communities are kept informed. Communication is going to be key as we move forward through these weeks. And so I want to take also the opportunity to express my gratitude to all of the chambers and all of the employer associations and employer representatives for their steadfast work. Obviously, we have to work together if we're going to be successful during this particular crisis. WSA understands the concern, of course, and the uncertainty that this particular crisis has and the effects it has on our employers, as well as the clients that we serve and our residents within the communities. We want to just make sure that our message is loud and clear this morning, and as we move forward, that you have a partner with Workforce Solutions Alamo, that you have a partner with Texas Workforce Commission. You have really great leadership, and it's times like this that leadership does matter, that leadership takes the opportunity to roll up their sleeves and do what's necessary to be able to be responsive to our communities and to our residents. So having said that, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar and would like to thank Commissioner Demerson again. At this point, I'd like to introduce, when we talk about great leadership, my board chair, Juan Solis.
Thank you, Adrian, and good morning to all. I too welcome all of y'all for being on this call. And Adrian is correct. Leadership matters for us, and we've seen it with our county judge, Nelson Wolf. We've seen it with our mayor, Ron Neuenberg. They are making decisions that are proactive and decisive, which is what is needed more than ever now, not only in our city, our counties, and our state. We have a commissioner today that I believe has been making along those lines great decisions for the employers of the great state of Texas. We are an economic engine that is unparalleled throughout the United States and the world. It's under the leadership of Commissioner Demerson that we've been able to see much success and much more to come. When we look at this opportunity, I want to make sure that we all understand that this is an opportunity for conversation. This is an opportunity for us to discuss how things get done, in particular through Texas Workforce Commission. It is a privilege and an honor to serve as board chair of Workforce Solutions Alamo at this time, at this juncture of where we are. We're committed to being what we've always been committed to, responsive to the employers of our communities. I want to introduce you to the different panelists that we have. As I mentioned, Commissioner Aaron Demerson from San Antonio, which is what we love, serves as the representative for employers in the Texas Workforce Commission. Governor Greg Abbott appointed him to a 3-year term in August 20th of 2019. Prior to his appointment, Aaron was also served as director of the Office of Employer Initiatives at the Texas Workforce Commission, senior advisor to Governor Rick Perry, and executive director of Economic Development and Tourism Division in the governor's office. We're also fortunate to have David Elizondo as part of our panel. David is the Deputy District Director for the Office of U.S. Small Business Administration. And we all know the Small Business Administration is up and going and moving today as they unfold their new programs. Prior to his appointment, Elizondo served as manager of SBA's Corpus Christi branch office in the Lower Rio Grande Valley District. In his previous role, David led multiple training and outreach efforts to inform residents about the SBA disaster loan program, available, of course, after Hurricane Harvey. We do have a representative, also the Office of the Governor, with Adriana Cruz. Adriana currently serves as the Executive Director of the Economic Development Tourism Division within the Office of the Governor. Ms. Cruz joins us At this time, having most recently served as president of the Greater San Marcos Partnership Board of Directors. Prior to her appointment, Cruz was also the vice president of global corporate recruitment for the Austin Chamber of Commerce, where she was a project lead in several high-profile relocations. I can't tell you how it is important that we continue to have communication, that we continue to have transparency as we're trying to make the differences that are going to affect you every single day. The leader of all of this, we're very fortunate to have on our phone call today. This opportunity for us to speak one-on-one makes a big difference. It is my pleasure to introduce Commissioner Demerson to speak and open up the opportunity as he makes his statement. Thank you, sir, for your leadership. And as Adrian said, which I totally believe, leadership matters. Commissioner?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Juan, for the acknowledgement. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for holding the call today and allowing us to participate. And to Adrian, thank you for all you're doing. I know when you received that assignment recently, you hit the ground running, and you've been in several meetings with me right off the bat. And that says a lot to your commitment as well. And to your board chair, we've had a long working relationship, Juan, and we appreciate everything that you guys are doing because as you mentioned, leadership does matter. And so we appreciate your continued support in these efforts right now. Adrian and his team, the Alamo Workforce Solutions Board, they're the boots on the ground. And so to all of those that are on the call right now, make sure that you take advantage of that resource. These are very interesting times right now. You actually have some companies actually hiring at this particular point. Some companies are hiring while we're experiencing a large amount of layoffs and furloughs as well. So very interesting times, but the boots on the ground are Adrian and his team. And so that's a very important partner and a resource for all of those that are on the call today. Let me say on behalf of Governor Abbott and myself, just our thanks for the investment that these small businesses, these employers are making in our state. We don't take that for granted at all. We appreciate the investment. We appreciate you taking the time today as well. And just thank you for what you've always done. And that's strictly just simply taking care of business. We appreciate what you're doing. You're hiring our Texans, and we, again, don't take that for granted as well at all. We was appointed to this position in August of 2019 by Governor Abbott, and my goal is to represent the employers here in Texas. We want to make sure that we are there for them, especially in this time period. And to that point, I have 4 dynamic attorneys on board, employment law attorneys, and our goal is really to make sure that we're answering the questions. We want to the questions that are being asked by our Texas employers, the uncertainty that you guys have. We want to make sure that you're getting the right information, the right resources, pointed to the right resources to make a difference. And so I have Tommy Simmons that's joining me, Belissa Chapa as well. It says legal counsel. She's with us as well. Elsa Ramos is on board, and then Mario Hernandez on our team as well. He's answering the hotline right now, but these individuals will be in a position to answer questions, your questions that you have as it relates to what's happening right now and the resources that are available. They've been on the phone call, answering calls over the past 3 weeks, day in and day out, a number of calls that are coming through, but they're taking care of business in a big way. I want to really, we have a frequently asked question document as well that we're going to share with Adrian and his team to make sure that we get that out. It's also available on our TWC website as well, but those are some of the common questions that we're receiving from employers throughout the state. And so we'll make that document available for you guys as well. But to highlight a few things that have been happening, Governor Abbott took swift action right away and waived the waiting period of unemployment benefits. It normally takes a week. We waived that. He waived that right away. Here at TWC, we waived the search requirement. There's no longer a search requirement for unemployment insurance opportunities as well. Along with that, the governor had requested a designation from SBA, and happy to have David on the line and Adriana Cruz on the line as well. But he received that disaster declaration, which allows for the economic disaster loan program that we'll talk about as well. And one other item I want to share with you before we close out is really there's a shared work program that we have. We want to make sure that you are aware of that program. That's an alternative to layoffs. And so we want to talk about that a little bit for companies that may want to participate and take advantage of that program. Adriana will probably talk about a number of the other things that Governor Abbott has been leading in regards to the supply strike force team that's been put together, bulk purchases that are allowed, and a number of other things that are taking place. But to the point of TWC and what we're doing from a number of calls we've received, over 1.5, 1.7 million calls in one day, which is unprecedented. And it's right, 60,000, I think, was the highest number of calls that we've ever received. I want you to know that we're working day in and day out to answer those calls, to make sure that everybody receives a call. And you can rest assured that anybody that has a claim will be in a position, or that's in a position to receive benefits, will in fact receive those benefits. And so we're going to make sure that that's taking place, and just be patient with us as we go through. It's lessening up a little. We're making a lot of progress in that regard, and we're getting less complaints on that side because folks are able to get through based on the work that Ed Cerner, who's our executive director, and that team are doing to make that happen. And so I'm going to close out at this particular point. I know we have David and Adriana on the line as well. And let them have a few comments, and then we want to get to your Q&A at that point. But again, Adrian, Juan, thank you guys for the opportunity. Melissa, Carlos, thank you guys for what you guys are doing as well to get this going. And we're looking forward to participating with the Q&As that have been submitted and those that are coming in as well. And so with that, I want to go ahead and move to Adriana Cruz and allow Adriana, who's the Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Economic Development and Tourism, to have some opening remarks as well. Adriana, if you're on the line, proceed forward.
I am, Aaron. Thank you very much for that introduction. And thank you all for inviting me to participate today. My name is Adriana Cruz. I'm the Executive Director of the Economic Development and Tourism Office in the Office of Governor Greg Abbott. Very happy to be here with you today. Governor Abbott appointed me in December 2019 to take on this role. I'm an economic developer with 20 plus years of experience, both at the state level, at the regional level, and at the local level. Glad to be here with you today to help answer some questions. These are very, very difficult times, very unprecedented times. And I want you all to know that the governor's office is working day in and day out, focusing on, first of all, the health and safety of Texans, making sure that we have the hospital capacity that we need and the supplies that we need. And then secondly, looking at our economy and economic recovery, and our small businesses across the state are looking for assistance right now. We have some information available on our website at gov.texas.gov/business. There's information specific for Texas businesses on COVID-19 resources. We're gathering information from our other state agency partners, the Workforce Commission. We have an FAQ page as well. We're working with SBA and the regional SBDCs across the state, getting that information out in the hands of as many business owners as possible. So I'm happy to be here today. Thank you, Juan and Adrian and the other members of the Workforce Solutions Alamo team. And I'll be happy to take your questions.
Good. Thank you, Adrian, for joining us. Appreciate all that you guys are doing as well. We're going to move to David Elizondo, who's joining us, Deputy District Director from the U.S. Small Business Administration. David.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Commissioner, for allowing the SBA to participate on this call. As Adriana mentioned, this is unprecedented times, and historically during a natural disaster, the Office of Disaster Assistance within SBA is activated, and therefore we provide disaster loans and also economic injury disaster loans for small businesses that have been impacted. So, for example, Hurricane Harvey, there was a physical presence of the damage incurred. So here, with this pandemic, this is something that the agency is new to deal with. So as you all saw last Friday, the President signed the bill of the Paycheck Protection Program. As of yesterday afternoon, the information notice has been sent out to SBA participating lenders so small businesses can get back on their feet as quickly as possible. So now, to distinguished Commissioner and to the attendees on the phone, there's two different programs that are currently running right now to assist small businesses in Texas. Number one is called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Number two is the Paycheck Protection Program. So the Paycheck Protection Program falls under the CARES Act. That one, it's a loan designed to provide direct incentive for small businesses to keep their workers on the payroll. So what we're trying to do is tell small business owners to keep their employees, and the loan could potentially be forgiven. Now, to enhance the disaster loan side of the house, what I did was I brought in a public information officer with the Office of Disaster Assistance who could further elaborate on that $10,000 fee relief that's currently being advertised among the Small Business Administration. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Public Information Officer Elizabeth Vargas, who can touch on the EIDL loan.
All right, Elizabeth?
Yes, hi, good morning. My name is Elizabeth Vargas. I'm a Public Information Officer with the U.S. Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Assistance. SBA offers an economic injury disaster loan for up to $2 million to small businesses and nonprofit organizations suffering economic injury as a result of the coronavirus. These loans may be used to pay fixed debts, payroll, accounts payable, and other bills. The interest rate is 3.75% for small businesses and 2.75% for private nonprofit organizations, with a long term up to 30 years. The first payment on these loans is deferred for 12 months. With this economic injury loan, businesses are also eligible to apply for a loan advance for up to $10,000. These funds will be available within a few days. If approved, these funds can be used for payroll and other operating expenses and will be forgiven. So this is very important for people to know. And even if businesses apply and they are denied a loan, they could get this advance. So it's very important for them to know. And the link for this streamlined application, we have a new application that is really easy. It's 5 screens they have to fill out. And the link is COVID-19 relief.sba.gov. And also our line for service center number 1-800-659-2955. And as of today, this line is open 24/7. So people can call in anytime for any questions they might have. And we have an email address also, disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. And all this information can be found at sba.gov/coronavirus.
Elizabeth, Commissioner, so to further elaborate, sir, one of the common questions we're getting so far is, can I apply for both the PPP and the economic injury disaster loan? And the answer is yes, you can. You just have to make sure to distinguish that you can show that you're not using the funds for the same purpose. In other words, you cannot double dip. So the PPP specifically for payroll, and then the economic injury disaster loan, as Elizabeth mentioned, could be used for fixed assets, supplies, et cetera. So this is a very moving component. It's very fluid is what I like to say. And the maturity of the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, is 2 years at 1% interest rate. I say again, that's 1% interest rate.
All right, David, thank you guys. And Elizabeth, thank you for joining us on the call as well. And so we're going to get to the questions that have been pre-submitted, and then we'll go into the Q&A to grab some of those questions as well. Again, we have Elsa Ramos, who joined us on the line, Melissa Chapa, and then Tommy Simmons. We're practicing our social safe distancing. And so Tommy's on this side over there. And I'm going to read the questions and have these guys fire away with the answers, and the panelists will take care of business in that regard. And so the first question says, can employers require employees who are high risk to stay at home?
I would say yes. Tommy Simmons is my name. I would say yes to this, particularly in an area where businesses and individuals are already under a local advisory to shelter in place or stay at home unless they're out for essential business. This would be the case with maintaining a safe workplace, which is a requirement under OSHA guidelines. If somebody is exhibiting some kind of, high-risk symptoms, or if they have been in a high-risk place, then they can be instructed to stay home and try to give them telecommuting duties if at all possible, and also be careful about potential employment discrimination issues too. The EEOC has warned about any kind of racial or ethnic discrimination, as that might happen as a result of the COVID pandemic. So just be aware of that issue. But basically, if somebody is high risk, it is legal to tell them to stay at home.
Okay. Number 2, can employers tell employees with symptoms to stay home?
And basically, very similar answer to that. If they are actually exhibiting symptoms that are, warned by health experts as being indicative of possible pandemic exposure, anything related to COVID-19, then yes, because you don't want people who are coughing a lot or sneezing a lot, especially after information has come out from very high levels within the health expert community that COVID-19 can be airborne and it can be spread simply by being in the breathing space of somebody who has been infected. So caution is recommended, and you might also want to take a look at the CDC website, which reflects the latest advice coming out of Washington, D.C., that even masks might be advisable in many work environments. So all of those are fair game.
Okay, and this is under COVID-19 business contingency planning. So that's the nature of the questions here. What should employers do when employees say they are experiencing otherwise undiagnosed symptoms of COVID-19 or have been exposed to someone who has COVID-19?
We might let Melissa or Elsa address this one if they are on the line.
Melissa, Elsa?
Yes. Okay. So if someone is exhibiting symptoms, in keeping with a safe and healthy workplace, you wouldn't want them to go into the business. Part of the concern is that we receive from employers is that some folks are wary as to whether or not their employees are being truthful about their situation. So it's kind of a balance that I think employers need to strike. On the one hand, if someone is saying they are having any kind of symptoms, not just COVID-19, but cold, flu, other diseases that could be transferred to other folks, you certainly want to maintain a healthy and safe working environment. So remote work would be an option to see if the employee can work remotely during that time. Another question that comes from that is whether or not you can request medical documentation. Generally, under the law, you can request medical documentation from an employee to confirm that that they can't come into work or return to work date, confirming that they have symptoms or something like that. But realistically, asking for a doctor's note in these times might prove problematic since a lot of medical facilities are only taking in, the essential cases. So there is a balance to strike there, not to mention if an employee is no longer working, they may not be able to afford to go to the doctor. A lot of folks live paycheck to paycheck. So if the employer believes that the employee is being honest and all of that, then maybe not request a medical note, just kind of keep open communication with the employee. I don't know if Tommy has anything to add, or Elsa, as far as what to do with workers who are not seeking a medical diagnosis and have no intention of doing so.
No, I would say that's good advice, Melissa. Thank you.
Okay. All right, question number 4. What if the employee does not self-report, but the employer notices the employee exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19?
That would be essentially the same situation as that previous question about telling employees with symptoms to stay home. If the employer in good faith believes that an employee is showing signs of COVID infection or exposure, then it would be in keeping with maintaining a safe workplace and taking advisory precautions to tell them to stay home. But, by all means, try to do it in as diplomatic and civil a way as possible with, proper consideration for, whether this should be done in public or out in front of other workers. Usually it's best to have a one-on-one conversation on something like this. And remember to keep employment discrimination considerations in mind.
All right, so what should an employer do if an employee refuses to come to work, though they are not ill and have not been exposed? And so an employer has an employee who refuses to come to work, though they are not ill and have not been exposed. Melissa?
Yes. So if an employee is just not coming to work because they're afraid, that's a common question that we receive. They have no symptoms, no family members who are ill. They're just worried. It is understandable. On the one hand, an employer, you can't force someone to come into work. So at that point, as my coworker Elsa says, you want to put the keys of the job into the employee's hands, letting them know that, you know, work is available. And if you want that employee to come into work, that's kind of the best you can do. You can't force them to come in. If they decide not to go in, that could be seen as a voluntary resignation. Basically, it could be seen like they're quitting the job if they file for unemployment. And under our current rules, someone who quits out of mere fear without a doctor's recommendation that they resign would be disqualifying, and that person currently under our rules would not be eligible for unemployment benefits. That may change as soon as the cases roll out and facts are developed in those cases, but generally speaking, you can't force someone to come in. If they choose not to come in, that's their decision. If they file for unemployment, it could be viewed as a resignation that would disqualify them from benefits.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. What happens if an employer is ordered to close its business or citizens are ordered to shelter in place and therefore cannot come to work? Elsa?
Yes, here I am. So what happens when the employer is forced to close its doors? So generally speaking, the employer has to follow the mandate if they're not an essential business, so they need to close the doors and lay off its employees. They must do that. Those employees, of course, then can file for unemployment benefits. And we would handle those claims as we've been handling all the ones that have come through under similar circumstances. There's no required, in Texas, written notice that has to be given to employees, no formalities. So depending on where the employees are when this order comes through or what the employer's in the middle of, they can contact the employees via phone, email, text message. They can send written notice, again, not required. When the employees that are unable to work because of the shutdown or the shelter in place or stay at home order, then those employees will want to list that on their unemployment claims. If that's the reason that they're not working, and the employer as well in responding to the claim would want to list that as the reason. If that's the case, and this is the tax-paying employer, there's supposed to be chargeback protection. That's a very common question. Will the employer's account be protected from charge? And under these circumstances, because of the COVID crisis, the tax-paying employer's accounts are supposed to be protected from charge.
Thank you, Elsa. So how should companies handle possible issues around discrimination, harassment based on disability or race, a national origin perceived to be affiliated with an affected area?
Yes, I would like to answer that, if that's all right. I speak with employers about this quite often. What we usually guide employers to do is if they receive any notification that an employee is being discriminated against or harassed, or there's a hostile work environment due to any protected characteristic, race, gender, national origin, age, disability, etc., the employer is bound to investigate and address that in a discreet manner. So you certainly don't want people to hear about it if they're not involved with the investigation, meaning keep your investigation confidential, investigate fully, turn over every stone, which usually means speaking to the accused also and getting their statement. What some employers will often do is they'll speak with folks privately, and while they are questioning one of the folks, whether it be the accused or the witness, you are writing down what they're saying while they're speaking. They can review your statement before you're done, make any edits and initial off on it, because you're trying to figure out what really happened, who was involved, and to what degree these activities actually occurred. So sometimes you'll get notice where someone will tell you, oh, don't tell anyone. I just wanted to make you aware of this, but don't do anything. In my opinion, you are bound to do something. You know about it. So whether you hear about it directly from the alleged victim or from word of mouth or social media, to me, it doesn't matter. If you get wind of any of this kind of activity, you have to fully investigate figure out, get to the bottom of it, basically, be discreet, keep things confidential. And as far as the alleged victim who's reporting it, you might want to keep them informed as far as your investigation is. They might want a very quick turnaround. Sometimes it's going to take some time, especially now with social distancing and all of that. So keep the employee apprised of what you're doing. Let them know you haven't forgotten about them. You're still investigating. But in my opinion, that's what you must do, and shut it down. And depending on what your findings are, that will guide you on the action to take. Some of this can be very serious, so employers will move straight to termination, and that's fine. You know, Texas is an at-will state, so you can let someone go as long as it's not for an illegal reason, such as race, gender, national origin, disability, age, etc. So once you do confirm, then you can move forward with disciplinary action or termination as you deem appropriate.
Thank you, Alyssa. Can employers require medical certifications before an employee returns to work after COVID-19 diagnosis? Can employers require medical certification before an employee returns to work after a COVID-19 diagnosis?
Well, and I'm not sure about the language. The certification language is usually tied to FMLA certification, the Family Medical Leave Act, when somebody leaves because of a serious medical condition. If the question, so if it's an FMLA related illness, then I suppose, yes, the employer could make sure that the medical provider has provided the required documentation, the certification paperwork. If we're talking about someone who is not under the Family Medical Leave Act, out for COVID with medical certification, and like Melissa mentioned earlier, the employer can request some medical documentation. It doesn't have to be the certification paperwork under FMLA, but can require some proof from a medical provider that the employee is able to resume work and would not be then a danger to anybody else and has been released without any restrictions or with restrictions. So the employer can request some medical documentation to ensure that the employee who had COVID-19 or some other contagious illness or communicable illness can return to work and be safe for the employee, customers, co-workers, et cetera.
Okay, so thank you guys. I'm going to move to general resources, and we're going to move these pretty quickly because we want to try to get to a lot of questions. And so with this one, I'm going to have David to answer, and then Adriana be prepared to answer as well. And then I think Tommy has a document as well, but it says, where's the best place? And then Adrian, if you can help out on this one as well. Where is the best place for employees and businesses to go for information on employment and grant/loan opportunities? And so we'll start with David, your resource pages, and those that are on the call, this is a good opportunity. This has been recorded, I believe, but a good opportunity for you to take some of this information down. David?
Thank you, Commissioner. So the best place to go to stay up to date with the latest information that our agency is pushing out is sba.gov/coronavirus. I'll say that again. It's sba.gov/coronavirus.
Thank you, David. And real good information out there. Elizabeth, anything on your side?
We have our 800 number, 659-2955. I repeat, 800-659-2955. And it is working 24 hours a day, every day.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Adriana.
To clarify, Commissioner, that is specifically for the disaster loans.
Disaster loans, that 800 number is specifically for the disaster loans. Okay, Adriana?
Yes.
And Adriana, go ahead and unmute.
Let me unmute, sorry. I think for small businesses in Texas, SBA, the SBA is going to be the first source, your local SBDC offices as well. The governor's office also has information on our website at gov.texas.gov/business. There is a red button there for COVID-19 information and resources that we are compiling. A lot of that comes from the SBA, but also from Texas Workforce Commission, the Comptroller's Office. So we're trying to gather as much information as we can and make that available. There's also an email sign up. You can sign up for email blasts that we send out as things change. As Mr. Elizondo said, this is a very fluid situation and things are changing. Day-to-day new programs are coming out, and so we're trying to keep everyone as educated as possible.
Adrian, at the local level? We have to unmute Adrian. There we go.
Yes, at the local level, Workforce Solutions, workforcesolutionsalamo.org is our website, and we do have all of our resources that we actually just recently updated our website. So our landing page actually has a number of resources there. We also have a call-in center number that's 210-224-4357. That's 210-224-HELP.
All right. Thanks a lot, Adrian. And then Tommy?
Yes, I would say look on our website, the twc.texas.gov website, and across every page on our website, there is a red banner, a red tab, and there are hot links to information specifically for employees and job seekers, and for employers, and for workforce resource partners. So check that on a regular basis, and you'll see any updates from the TWC, including the frequently asked questions page that the commissioner referred to.
Okay, so we're going to move to shared work plans. If we elect to utilize a shared work plan, are there record-keeping guidelines?
And the answer for that would be yes. The record-keeping guidelines are explained on the shared work plan page at the TWC website. To find that, just go to twc.texas.gov, and in the search box at the top right, enter the words shared work plan, hit enter, and the first link at the very top will be to the shared work plan page. There's an outline of the steps to take for the shared work plan, and there is also a reference to the record keeping requirements. Basically, you're keeping records to show that the conditions are being met for being in a shared work plan. 10 or more employees, reductions in work hours by a standard amount between 10 and 40%, and retention of employee benefits and things like that. But that's all explained on the shared work plan page.
And that's an opportunity for an alternative to layoffs. That's how that program works. It says if we utilize the shared work plan, will this impact our ability to participate in any of the CARES Act payroll protection programs?
That should not. Those are two separate programs. The shared work plan is administered by the TWC, and the payroll protection program is administered by the SBA and approved lenders. But the shared work plan benefits are for people who have lower wages due to reductions in work hours, and the paycheck protection plan is a way to maintain the payrolls. They can work together, but further guidance on that will be available from the TWC in the coming week, and that'll be posted on our TWC website. And for anything else we might want to hear from the SBA representative.
David, Elizabeth, anything in addition?
Exactly what he mentioned, sir. And additionally, we are doing webinars on a local level. So if you're located in Central South Texas, we have our website at sba.gov/TX/San Antonio. We are doing a webinar as we speak right now, but next week we're also doing a webinar Tuesday through Thursday, and actually a session in Spanish as well, sir.
Good, good. I'm going to move to the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. And this says, what are the requirements to apply for an economic injury disaster loan, and have any requirements been waived due to COVID-19?
Yes, well, the requirements right now, it's only your application. The credit elsewhere was waived, and we have the 12-month deferment, and people that have disaster loans from previous disasters have also a waiver of payments until December of this year. So we encourage everyone to apply and get their loan and their advance also.
Thank you, Elizabeth. CARES Act, please explain the employee retention credit in detail, including how to apply eligible businesses and the claims refund process. And so, Dave, you guys may want to hit that one.
Yes, sir. So the loan forgiveness. So forgiveness is based on the employer maintaining or quickly rehiring employees and maintaining salary levels. So in other words, forgiveness will be reduced if full-time headcount declines or if salary and wages decreased. So the maturity, again, this is standard across the board, is for 2 years at a 1% interest rate. What are the requirements? As long as you meet the definition of a small business. And so on SBA's website, we actually have a table of contents of what defines a small business. So in other words, one shoe does not fit all. So I recommend for employees or employers, to look at their NAICS code, their North American Industry Classification System, to see if they meet the definition of a small business. And if they do, they indeed can apply for the Paycheck Protection Program.
Okay, and so this says, what is the maximum employee retention credit and how is it calculated? You kind of talked about that a little bit, but anything you want to add to that particular question?
It's on a case-by-case basis, sir. So there is an application form that the employers can fill out in preparation for the banks going live. Officially today, banks are going live, but you know, we're telling people to be patient because the policy notice was just sent out yesterday evening. So we're allowing banks to come online with the requirements. So there is an application on that website I stated earlier, which is sba.gov/coronavirus, where employers can get a head start to filling out the application form before approaching a bank.
Okay. Juan, anything with that on your side, or are we clear? Okay. All right, we'll move to the next. Please explain the Paycheck Protection Program in detail, including how to apply, the application process, and eligible businesses, including nonprofits. Go ahead, Tommy.
Yes, there is really good information on that on the sba.gov website. And if you go to sba.gov and click on the first link that comes up, which is COVID-19, you'll get a really great list of available links to their resources. The very first link will be to the Paycheck Protection Program loans. The next link will be for the disaster injury loan. And if you click on each one of them, you'll get an overview of the program requirements and links to more detailed guidance. Now, the details of how to apply, those are going to be in the SBA guidance that's available on their website.
Good. So, and it deals with this, the other two questions. How much money can a business receive through the Paycheck Protection Program, and what are the requirements needed for payroll to be considered a grant?
I believe the upper limit is $10 million. I'll ask the SBA to confirm that.
Yeah, so the information's on our website for sure. So I believe the amount is, I know for disaster loans, it's up to $2 million as well. And one thing I want to distinguish real quick, so again, disaster loans is going to be administered directly through SBA, while the Paycheck Protection Program loans will be administered through the SBA participating lenders. What we're doing, Commissioner, on our side is we're trying to provide an updated list on our local San Antonio website so folks can see which banks are eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program.
And that's excellent, because that's a question, a common question that's coming out as well. Juan, anything in that regard?
Yes, sir. As a banker for BB&T Truist, we have that available for our link is ready for all our clients at this point. And if they just call me, I can make sure to facilitate that. But BB&T is ready for the next steps.
Awesome. Thank you for joining in there. And we're going to move to unemployment benefits and rates. Does an employee whose hours have been cut, but who plans on going back to work for that company, have to look for and apply for new employment while receiving benefits? This question specifically pertains to restaurant and service industry workers.
The answer is no. The Texas Workforce Commission has waived the work search requirements during the pandemic emergency. So until that condition is lifted in the country, the TWC plans to maintain that waiver of the work search requirement. That having been said, many people will naturally want to find any work that is available to keep some wages coming in, and the TWC stands ready to help people find a job through the workintexas.com job bank and through the online services available through any Workforce Solutions office in the area. So definitely take advantage of that resource if somebody is looking for employment.
Will an employer's unemployment benefit chargebacks increase if employees file for unemployment benefits due to COVID-19?
No, they won't, because as Elsa and Melissa mentioned earlier, the TWC has already put out guidance to all of the call centers and claim investigators and also appeal hearing staff that if the work separation is due to COVID-19 or related circumstances, a taxed employer's account is protected from chargeback of benefits. So there should be no direct financial impact from a COVID-19 related unemployment claim on an employer.
All right. Will an employer's unemployment insurance rate increase if employees file for unemployment due to COVID-19? I think that's, go ahead.
Yes, that's related to the previous question, and the answer is no. There is no direct increase because of the chargeback protection. However, the Texas Unemployment Compensation Act provides a mechanism for replenishing the state unemployment insurance trust fund anytime it gets depleted due to large payouts. And that is called the replenishment tax and the replenishment ratio. The replenishment tax is paid by every taxed employer in Texas. That's the minimum tax rate. Even for somebody who's not had any unemployment claims during the past 3 years, they still pay that. This year, it's 0.31%. Next year, it could likely increase because of the need to replenish the unemployment insurance trust fund for all the benefits being paid out as a result of the pandemic. Also, for experience-rated employers, that means employers who pay more than a minimum because they have chargebacks in the 3-year period preceding the new tax year. Those employers also have a replenishment ratio, which is a modifier for the benefit ratio. It's a complicated formula set out in the statute, but basically those are the two mechanisms whereby a deficit in the unemployment insurance trust fund may be replenished. There is also, if the fund drops below a statutorily mandated floor, there may be a deficit tax as well. All of that will be determined in late November of this year for tax year 2021. So employers will see that on their tax rate notices that are mailed out after the first week of December of this year.
Yeah. And so briefly, there are not a lot of comments or questions coming in about trying to get to a live person. And so I'm going to give you an ombudsman email address that I want folks to know about because they're being very responsive. But there's a 512-463-2236. But let me give you the 800 number, 1-800-828-5115. And that's the ombudsman. There's also an email address for the ombudsman as well, which is ombudsman, OMBUDSMAN at twc.state.tx.us. Ombudsman at twc.state.tx.us. They're being very responsive in trying to get back with pin resets and things of that nature. So I wanted to do that because we had a number of comments coming in about that. Hours have been expanded. The team's working on Saturdays as well, 8 to 6, even at that time frame. So this says, can an employer expedite the enrollment of employees they have furloughed for unemployment benefits? And if yes, how?
The two main ways that they can do that are through the mass claim process, which are for employees who have been either completely laid off or substantially laid off such that they don't qualify for the shared work plan. The shared work plan is the other way of doing that. That's for employers whose employees have had their hours reduced by a standard amount between 10 and 40%. So mass claims or shared work plan, those both have their own separate page on the TWC website. Just enter mass claims or shared work plan in the search box and hit enter and click on the first link that comes up.
Rosalinda said, what is the time frame that is estimated to review and approve an application from the date of submission?
We are told by our unemployment insurance division that mass claims are being analyzed, evaluated, and approved within 7 days. but they are working as fast as they can. Similar timelines are available for shared work plans. Again, they're working as fast as they possibly can. Staff have been reassigned to help the people who normally work on those projects. So the agency is trying to work on those as fast as possible. The good news for claimants is anybody affected by the unemployment, the agency, because of the long waits on the telephones and the internet claim filing portal, has decided to allow the backdating of initial claims to the date that the claimant first became unemployed, which can make a big difference for somebody who was unemployed last week, but they tried and tried and tried and couldn't get through, and they're only able to file a claim in a future week. They can still backdate their claim to the week in which they became unemployed, and that could make a real difference.
Okay, so we're getting winding down at 10:51 right now. A number of other questions, and if Adrian, Juan, or Melissa or the team have any particular questions that you want us to address, then let us know that as well. And if not, I'll continue to read the questions that we have here as well. One says, can you apply for both loans at the same time? I think David kind of hit that, PPP and the EIDL. I think that's been answered in that regard. And Juan Solis, the chair, has said that they're in a position to take care on the PPP side in the loan area. Linda says, we submitted an application for the EIDL loan before you upgraded the loan process last weekend. How can we now apply for the $10,000 advancement? There's no method to log in to make this request.
They have to apply on the new Streamline application. And the application link is covid19relief.sba.gov. I repeat, covid19relief.sba.gov. They have, unfortunately, they have to fill out this application. But as I said, it's really easy. It's 5 screens, and then they have the option to apply for the advance.
All right, Tiffany, anything you want to add to that? All right. How much backdating time are you allowing for applicants from the date of submission? Unemployment claims, since the lines are flooded and many have trouble applying for unemployment. Melissa?
Yeah, so typically claims are backdated to the Sunday prior. So if someone filed for unemployment today, it would have been backdated to the Sunday before. But the guidance that we've received has stated that they could receive unemployment from as of the date that they were laid off. So they could go back even further than that to give them benefits. Tommy, have you heard anything different?
Yes, that's exactly the guidance that we've heard from our agency.
Okay. So 501c6s, can they apply for the PPP in addition to the EIDL?
So yes, nonprofits are eligible to apply for both the EIDL and the Paycheck Protection Program.
All right, sounds good. If the work search requirement has been waived, what should applicants respond when they are being asked for work search information? Adrian, Melissa, any of you guys?
Yeah, I would say that if the requirement has been waived and when the claimants are still filing their payment requests and are being asked that question, answer honestly and answer 0 unless they are searching for work. It's not something that should penalize them under the current rules that we have, since that requirement has been waived. So just answer to the best of your ability, honestly, all the questions that are asked.
Okay, from Kimberly, can I bonus employees with the PPP funds so long as I don't exceed the loan limits?
Can you repeat the question, Commissioner?
They were asking if they could actually provide bonuses for employees if they with PPP funds, so long as they don't exceed the loan limits. And so
Tracking. So that I would say would be on the discretion of the SBA participating lender.
Okay. All right. So we got that one done. Where can you check EIDL loan status online?
As of right now, if it was the old application, they must call the 1-800 number, which is 659-2955.
Okay. and there's a hotel-related question about retaining employees. On the PPP, the max loan amount is 2.5 times your last payroll. How do we add our interest and rent cost?
That would be entailed on the application form that is available on SBA's website under the Paycheck Protection Program. That's where the information can be documented.
Okay. And does the shared work plan waive the new training requirement?
I have not heard any guidance from the shared work plan unit about that. I would assume that that has been waived, but that's something that we can check into for you. If you will send that, whoever asked that question, if you will send it to me, Tommy Simmons, at my email address, tommy.simmons@twc.state.tx.us, I can relay that to the shared work plan unit and get the answer directly from them and then reply with their answer to you.
Okay, and as we wrap up, Linda wanted a little clarification, and she was thanking us for answering the question, but she wasn't totally clear. She's already received confirmation on receipt of their EIDL application on March 27th. Now she's asking, does she have to still reapply?
No, if she already got a confirmation number, no, she just has to wait to get a loan officer to call her and talk about the next steps.
Fantastic. And so as we wind up at 57, David, they're asking, do churches and religious organizations qualify as small businesses eligible? And I think you answered that with a nonprofit type question there.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. Can home care employees file if their hours have been cut? I have employees that worked 40 hours and now they are working 0 hours.
Yes, they can file. Yes, they definitely can file unemployment claims, and they should do so as soon as they can get through. But as Elsa Ramos pointed out earlier, they will be allowed to backdate their claims to the date of unemployment.
And so, Mr. Chairman, Adrian, one last question as we approach 10:58. It says, how about checking status online for the new application?
So I think what we would encourage folks is to continue to reach out to TWC in relation to that. I think that's on the TWC side. But maybe somebody else from TWC can appropriately answer that question.
Okay. And so this one says, how about checking the status of new application? I think it was related to the disaster loan program, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll look at that question and get a more proper response to it as well. And so it's 10:59. I think we covered a lot of questions, all of them that were written, and then all of the ones that were on the Q&A screen, a few more that are coming in through the chat box there. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Adrian and you guys to close out. But we thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to do this. Good questions, good responses. Elsa, Melissa, thank you guys. David, Elizondo, Elizabeth, Adriana, thank you guys for all you're doing. And Chairman, thank you for your continued leadership and support as we move forward. San Antonio's home for me, and you guys keep making progress, and we appreciate the opportunity to do this. And we want to, any unanswered questions, we'll try to get those to you. Adrian, we'll turn it back over to you guys. And thank Melissa and Carlos for their help earlier this morning. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Commissioner. Again, we appreciate your leadership and all the strong efforts that the TWC staff and all the combined efforts under the governor have been doing in relation to respond to this crisis. I'd like to acknowledge that one of our councilmen from the city of San Antonio, Councilman Courage, was on this call, and so he asked one of those questions, I believe, that was answered. So I'd like to thank him for his leadership as well. So again, I can't say enough about the gratitude that we have here at WSA for all the leadership at the state level, and I'll turn it over to Juan for any final comment.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Commissioner, we appreciate you, and as we said at the very start, leadership matters. It was demonstrated today. This may not be our last call. In fact, I know it won't be our last call. There'll be many more to come, and we look forward to creating that synergy of people understanding that our goal simply is put people back to work, and our employers lively, thriving, making things happen and getting people back where they need to be, just like we were before. It's important that the economy continue to get back to a normal status, if not exceeding. We're looking to the future. We're not going to look at this as a bad opportunity. It's an opportunity for all of us to realign ourselves and get ready for the next millennium. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, thank you.